Hey, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, and today I want to talk about some different games. If you've been subscribing to this channel for a while, then you'll know that we cover a lot of games, I play a lot of games, and therefore by extension, I look forward to a lot of games. And some of those games are not always out in the West. Some of them don't even have confirmed Western release dates. If you guys saw our Lost Ark coverage last year, then you'll know that I will go to lengths to play these games even if they're not out in the West, just because some of them are really good. And today I want to talk about 5 games that you probably maybe haven't heard of, don't know about, and you definitely want to know about because some of these look so awesome. So if you do enjoy this video, then a like would be super appreciated. Let me know in the comments down below if you know about any of these games, if you're looking forward to any of these games, what you think about them. And of course, if you haven't entered our giveaway for a chance to win a Pokemon Let's Go Nintendo Switch, that is almost over. So be sure to click the link in the description box down below. Now, let's kick things off by talking about Project Awakening. This is probably the one of all the games in the list that you may have heard of because we did actually get a trailer for it officially last year, and it is supposed to be coming to the West as well. It's supposed to be launching on PS4 in both the US and Japan. I would therefore imagine by extension Europe as well. And it looks really cool. From the trailer we've seen, yes, admittedly, you know, it's whenever you see these kind of gameplay trailers and there's no HUD or anything like that, it's kind of hard to be like, is that real? But yo, there's some parts in there that look incredibly awesome. The way that you have that kind of weight in combat, the way that when the character or the character you're playing as gets hit and knocked against the wall, you can really feel that. And it kind of gave me those sort of Dragon's Dogma / Monster Hunter / kind of... Didn't you guys ever play Vindictus? That game was really cool. I kind of got those vibes watching this, and according to the official description for it, it's a brand new action RPG featuring quote-unquote cutting-edge graphics, high fantasy setting. It's being developed by Cygames, so of course, you know, they work on quite a lot of things, and they've also assembled a pretty big team behind it with some big names, and their aim behind it is to bring a sort of fresh approach to the fantasy RPG genre. Now, yes, admittedly, that's kind of everyone's pitch whenever they kind of announce a new game. They're like, we want to put a spin on it that nobody's ever seen before. But going from the very short trailer we got, there is also a Japanese trailer that's a little bit more abstract. You don't really get to see as much combat and stuff. But going from the gameplay, it looks very cool. I've almost kind of got Scalebound vibes from it as well. So yeah, this one looks very cool. And the fact that we saw it at E3 last year means it's probably the one that we are most likely to get in the West. However, moving on from there, the next game on the list is KURTZPEL. Now this one, visually, just looks incredible. It's got this very interesting sort of cel-shaded anime aesthetic to it, but when you actually see the game in motion and you see the combat, it looks fantastic. It's an arena-style brawler that features 2v2 PvP battles, but it's also got 1v1 epic boss battles, so for those of you that don't necessarily want to dive into PvP all the time, there is of course PvE. It was actually available in early access to kind of test a little bit earlier on this year, but I only actually discovered it just as they were closing early access, but it's supposed to re-enter early access at Q2 this year, so hopefully within the next few months we'll have a chance to go hands-on and I can actually bring you guys some of our own gameplay. But of course, on top of that, there are classes in the game. They're typically referred to as karmas, and they're split into 2 main roles. You've got the Breaker, which is the tank, and you also have the Slayers, which are the DPS. And it also, rather interestingly, features a custom mission system where you can actually create your own game mode. So if you like the feel and the flow of the combat, there's actually scope to try and sort of tailor the experience more so to you. And as you would expect in a game like this, it also features in-depth character customization, because in a game like this, it's all about your character looking cool, so that's got to be a given. Now moving on from there to the next one. This one is actually Western game, so it's not one of those kind of slightly more obscure ones that you might not have heard of. However, you'd still be forgiven for having never heard of this, because this is a game that is being developed by Amazon's game studio. It's called New World. It is Amazon's, essentially their foray into like a big MMO kind of universe. It's essentially a huge open world sandbox environment, and it's kind of, from the trailer, from what we've seen and from what they've described it kind of sounds like a less janky version of Atlas. Essentially, the game takes place in Northern America during the 17th century. Players can be anything they want, from farmers to soldiers to lone wolves, and then, you know, who you work with, what you do is ultimately up to you. It is literally one of those games where you kind of just exist in the world and you can do as you please. So sounds a little bit broad, might not necessarily have a unique selling point from that standpoint, but if you are one of those people that likes diving into these crazy big open worlds, then that alone is a rather interesting premise. We've had some gameplay from it, which you can of course see some of it in the background. There's also an alpha sign up right now that if you want to sign up for it, you can, do so. It's also currently only slated for PC, but to kind of go over a few more details on the game, based on kind of at least what we know, you kind of discover and you venture into these huge hostile environments filled with, mystery, vast fortune, the kind of treasure hunting thing you'd expect. And of course, along the process, you can farm items, you can craft, you can, do all those kind of things that you would expect to do in these large open MMOs. However, there's also a battle system. You can fight with other players, you can fight with things around the world. And then if you want to, and you want to kind of tackle bigger challenges, you can then unite your forces, team up together, and kind of explore like that. So yeah, it kind of, at least the first time I ever saw it, I was like, this looks kind of like Amazon's version of Atlas, but admittedly, it looks a little bit less janky. But who knows? It's kind of unproven ground, so watch this space. Then moving on from there, we have a game called HOUND. Now, rather interestingly, the original pitch for this game was going to make it a side-scrolling mobile game, but then it drastically changed direction and it became what you are seeing on screen right now. It is essentially, according to the director, they kind of pitch it as World of Tanks meets Monster Hunter World. Now, one of those things I really like, being Monster Hunter World. I'm not a huge fan of World of Tanks, just not my thing, it's not my bag, but I can see where they're coming from with that, because from when you see in the combat, basically you go on these big hunts against these huge creatures, and all the fights, all the hunts, so to speak, take place on horseback, but they're not regular horses. You're not out there with like a bow and arrow. You've got these megaton, massive mounted cannons on the side of your horse. It looks quite ridiculous, but you know what? I kind of like ridiculous looking games, and I feel like the more ridiculous, the better. And if you'd said to me before, hey, there's a game where you can go and get on the back of a horse and you can go and fight some dragons, I'd be like, that doesn't sound cool. But when you tell me that those horses have giant cannons and then I can run around in a ridiculous manner, now you've got my attention. Now, the game itself is also supposed to be kind of like a hybrid party-based / MMO sort of thing. So, in a similar vein to Monster Hunter, you kind of go out on these hunts with your team of people, you fight things, you return back, and then you kind of share that world with other people. It looks really interesting. Yes, admittedly, it might be a little bit unconventional in terms of, gameplay and whatnot, but in terms of visual appeal, it does actually look pretty cool. However, speaking of visual appeal, saving the best one till last, this is a game that when I saw it, I was like, yo, we need to get this game. This looks fantastic, and that is Project Barbecue. Not entirely sure whether that will be the final name. It probably won't be the final name, but this game looks incredible. This is over-the-top combat. It's kind of got this cel-shaded anime aesthetic, but you've also got these really cool anime-inspired characters. You've got these massive weapons, over-the-top combat, and in a game like this, the more over-the-top the combat, the better. And when you see it in motion, when you actually see the characters fighting through, it looks really cool. Because sometimes you get these games where they look nice, but then when you actually see combat, it's just a bit like you're kind of just cutting through paper. But in this one, there seems to be a lot of kind of weight to the combat, or at least kind of from what I can see from the trailer. And it definitely looks like you get that slightly more meaty feeling in typical combat scenarios. Now, admittedly, there's not a great deal that's known about this right now, but a couple of interesting things worth noting. This is actually supposed to be the successor to Dungeon Fighter Online, which is a hugely popular 2D multiplayer beat 'em up, so that in itself is pretty awesome. It's also built in the Unreal Engine 4, which gives you that kind of smooth, cel-shaded look that you're seeing on screen. It's an online action RPG, and there are, right now, from what we know, there are 7 or 8 different character classes that are planned for the final release, and they're also planning to have like a mix of kind of open world environments that you can explore, as well as dungeons that you can dive into for more condensed, hectic combat situations. So that's kind of all we know right now, but it is the game that, amidst this list, is the one that I'm most excited about because it looks fantastic. So, yeah, there are a few games that I'm personally really looking forward to. Of all of those, yeah, New World and, of course, Project Awakening, probably the ones that we are guaranteed to get in the West. But outside of that, hopefully we get the other ones as well because, yeah, some of these look really cool. Of course, it's fair to say that Lost Ark should definitely be in this list, but I've already spoken about that in the past, so I feel like I didn't need to include it in this video. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below. Did you guys know about any of these games? Are you excited for any of these games? And if not, what do you think about them if this is the first time seeing them today? Thanks for watching, stay tuned, and keep it locked for plenty more gaming videos. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here. But once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.